Finding a job in America right now feels like auditioning for a reality show where the prize is just being able to afford eggs and rent. We are talking about hiring managers who think they are FBI profilers and candidates who have completely forgotten how society works. From secret water glass tests to being rejected for your zodiac sign, the corporate world has officially lost its mind. Here are 55 of the most unhinged interview complaints that prove the system is a total dumpster fire. 1. A job seeker was outraged after being told he was rejected because he didn't smile enough during a grueling 4-hour technical interview. He argued that he was busy solving complex coding problems, not auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. The manager complained that his lack of joyful energy would bring down the team's spirit and make the office feel too serious. It is a frustrating trend where your ability to fake a happy face for hours is treated as more important than your actual technical expertise. 2. An HR manager posted a heated rant about a 30-year-old man who brought his mother to a senior-level interview. The mom didn't just wait in the lobby. She sat right next to her son and started answering questions about his work ethic while he just nodded along. When the recruiter asked her to leave, the candidate complained that his mother was his primary consultant and needed to be there for the salary talk. Is bringing a parent to an interview a sign of a total lack of maturity or just a new trend? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. 3. One candidate took to social media to complain about being rejected because her palms were slightly damp during a record-breaking heatwave. The interviewer actually sent a feedback email stating that a moist handshake is a sign of a weak spirit and an inability to handle the high-pressure environment of a tech startup. It was 95 degrees outside and the building air conditioning was broken, but apparently, the manager expected her to ignore her own biology. It is a level of nitpicking that turns a normal human reaction into a career-ending flaw. 4. A recruiter at a top marketing firm vented about a candidate who arrived with a level of main character energy that was actually terrifying. The guy refused to sit in the lobby chairs because he claimed they looked cheap and would ruin the aesthetic of his custom suit. He chose to stand for 20 minutes, staring intensely at the staff like he was a predator waiting for his prey. When the interview finally started, he spent the first 10 minutes complaining about the office decor. The company decided he was way too arrogant for a professional office environment. 5. A frustrated applicant complained about a job description that demanded a reliable vehicle for a position that was 100% remote. When she asked why she needed a car to type data from her own living room, the recruiter said she might need to drive to a library if her home internet ever went down. The candidate argued that this was paranoid and made no sense, especially since the pay didn't even cover a monthly car insurance premium. It is a level of planning that suggests the company expects a total societal collapse every single Tuesday. 6. An HR rep complained about a candidate who spent an entire 40-minute video interview eating a giant bowl of cereal with loud, wet crunches. Every time she was asked about her experience, she would hold up a finger, finish chewing a mouthful of Fruit Loops, and then give a one-word answer. When the recruiter finally ended the call, the applicant complained that she was being body-shamed for needing breakfast. It is truly amazing how the comfort of home has made some people forget that you still shouldn't treat a job interview like a Saturday morning cartoon session. 7. A candidate was recently outraged after being rejected from a creative agency because of her zodiac sign. The hiring manager told her that while her portfolio was impressive, they already had too many Scorpios on the team and were specifically looking for a Libra to balance the energy. The applicant complained that she had spent 4 years in college just to be told that her birth date was a deal-breaker for a graphic design job. Would you ever work for a boss who makes hiring decisions based on astrology? Let me know if that is a red flag for you. 8. A restaurant owner posted a rant about a candidate who turned a lunch interview into a competitive eating contest. The guy ordered a $40 ribeye steak, 3 appetizers, and 2 desserts while talking about his personal fitness goals. When the check arrived, he didn't even pretend to reach for his wallet, and instead asked if he could get a second steak to go for his dog. He didn't get the job, but he did walk away with $200 of free food, which is a massive success if you do not mind burning every professional bridge you have in town. 9. One manager complained about a candidate who stared at him without blinking for 45 minutes straight. The applicant had read somewhere that intense eye contact shows confidence, so he decided to turn the interview into a terrifying staring contest. It was so unsettling that the manager cut the interview short because he felt like he was being hunted by a predator. The candidate later complained on LinkedIn that the company couldn't handle his high alpha energy, totally oblivious to the fact that he just looked like a very creepy serial killer. 10. An applicant complained about a group interview that turned into a literal Hunger Games scenario for a basic retail job. The manager forced 10 people to compete in building a tower out of plastic straws and tape, telling them that the losers would be sent home immediately. The candidate argued that he was there to work a cash register, not participate in a low-budget reality show challenge. He walked out halfway through, complaining that companies are treating people like animals. Do you think these team-building games are useful or just humiliating? 11. A recruiter recently vented about a candidate who showed up with an emotional support pit bull without any prior warning. When told the office wasn't pet-friendly, the applicant complained that the company was discriminating against his lifestyle. The dog spent the entire interview growling at the CEO, while the candidate insisted that the animal could sense bad vibes. It is a bold move to bring a predator to an interview and then act offended when people are scared. Would you ever allow pets in a professional office setting? 12. One Gen Z applicant took to TikTok to complain that a major law firm was a toxic workplace because they didn't have a designated napping room or a meditation pod. During the interview, she asked about the company's nap policy and was met with blank stares from the senior partners. She argued that expecting 8 hours of continuous work without a scheduled snooze is a violation of her mental health needs. It is fascinating to see the clash between old-school corporate grind and the new demand for afternoon naps on the clock. 13. A graphic designer complained about a company that asked him to create a full rebranding campaign as a test before the second interview. He argued that asking for 40 hours of free labor just to see if he is a good fit is basically corporate theft. When he sent a bill for his time, the recruiter told him he lacked a passion for the brand. It is a classic move where companies try to get free consulting under the guise of a hiring test. Do you think candidates should be paid for their time during long technical interviews? 14. One hiring manager was stunned when a candidate pulled out a deck of tarot cards halfway through the interview to see if the company's future was bright. The applicant refused to answer any questions about her experience until she saw a positive omen in the cards. When she pulled a card representing ruin, she stood up, complained that the office energy was cursed, and walked out without saying another word. The recruiter was left sitting there wondering if he should call a priest instead of the next candidate on the list. 15. An office manager was baffled by a candidate who complained that the basement-level office was a human rights violation because it lacked natural sunlight. The applicant claimed he was part vampire and needed ambient moon energy, but also complained that the fluorescent lights were giving him a spiritual migraine. He spent 30 minutes explaining how his productivity is linked to the lunar cycle before asking if the company would pay for a sun lamp. Some people aren't looking for a job so much as a customized sanctuary. 16. A recruiter recently complained about a candidate who actually answered a FaceTime call from her hairstylist in the middle of a serious interview. She told the recruiter to hold on a sec while she discussed her highlights and upcoming appointment for 10 minutes. When the recruiter tried to end the session, the girl complained that she was being super rude and didn't understand how to multitask. It is truly amazing how some people think the entire world revolves around their social schedule, even when they are asking for a paycheck. 17. One applicant went on a viral rant about a tech company that asked him what kind of dinosaur he would be and why. He complained that these quirky interview questions are a massive waste of time and have nothing to do with his ability to manage a database. The recruiter told him they were looking for creative thinkers, but he argued that he is a professional, not a kindergarten student. Is it time to ban these stupid personality questions from the hiring process entirely? Let me know, what is the dumbest question you have ever been asked? 18. A job seeker shared a furious post about a company that refused to disclose the salary range until the fourth round of interviews. After 10 hours of talking and testing, they offered him $20,000 less than the industry standard. He complained that the competitive pay mentioned in the ad was a total lie designed to bait people into a trap. It is a toxic corporate tactic that treats a person's time like it has zero value. Why do companies still hide the salary until the very last second? It feels like a massive red flag. 19. A frustrated applicant complained about a company that ghosted him after he flew across the country for a final round interview. They paid for his flight and hotel, took him out to a fancy dinner, and then never sent a single email to tell him he didn't get the job. He argued that if a company can afford a plane ticket, they can afford 2 minutes to send a polite rejection. It is the ultimate professional insult to treat a person like they don't exist after making them jump through a dozen expensive and time-consuming hoops. 20. One seasoned professional complained about being told he was too experienced for a role he actually wanted. The recruiter told him they were worried he would get bored and leave for a better offer within 6 months. He argued that it is his choice to take a lower-stress job, and that overqualified is just code for "we do not want to pay you what you are actually worth." It is a bizarre world where having too much skill actually makes you unemployable. Have you ever been rejected for being too good at your job? 21. Many candidates are tired of the "we are a family" line during interviews. One guy complained that his interviewer spent an hour talking about their close bond, only to mention that family means staying until 9 p.m. without overtime. He argued that if he wanted a dysfunctional family that took his money, he would just go to Thanksgiving dinner. It is a classic corporate red flag used to guilt people into working for free. Is the work-family thing ever a good sign? Or is it always a trap for unpaid labor? 22. A job seeker recently ranted about the trend of one-way video interviews where you just record yourself answering questions for an AI. He complained that it felt like auditioning for a low-budget sci-fi movie instead of a professional job. He argued that if a company can't find 10 minutes for a real conversation, they don't deserve his time. It is the ultimate form of corporate laziness that strips all humanity out of the hiring process. Would you ever record yourself for a robot, or is that a total deal-breaker for you? 23. A 40-year-old executive complained about a recruiter who demanded his high school transcripts for a vice president role. He has 2 decades of experience and a master's degree, but the company insisted on seeing his 10th grade algebra scores. He argued that his ability to solve for X in 1998 has zero impact on his ability to lead a global sales team today. It is a level of bureaucratic nonsense that proves some HR departments are just living in a strange, nostalgic fantasy world that makes no sense. 24. One sales candidate complained about a manager who still uses the "sell me this pen" cliché from movie tropes. He said it was so cringeworthy that he just picked up the pen, put it in his pocket, and told the manager he could buy it back for $20. The manager was offended, but the candidate argued that modern sales is about solving problems, not using cheap tricks from 30 years ago. Why do companies still use these outdated tropes instead of actually testing real professional skills during the interview? 25. A recruiter posted a furious complaint about a candidate who did a high-level Zoom interview while clearly wearing pajamas and lying in bed. When the recruiter mentioned the lack of professionalism, the applicant complained that the work-from-home era means comfort should come first. She argued that her brain works better when she is under a duvet with a bag of chips. It is a wild example of how the line between personal space and professional boundaries has completely vanished for some people in the modern world. 26. A frustrated applicant complained about an office tour where the manager kept bragging about the free kombucha and beanbag chairs. When it came time to discuss the salary, it was barely above minimum wage for a role requiring 5 years of experience. The candidate argued that cool vibes don't pay the mortgage and that a ping pong table is not a substitute for a living wage. It is a manipulative tactic used to lure young workers into high-stress environments with the promise of free soda and a trendy office. 27. One candidate was outraged after a company tried to contact her third-grade teacher as part of a comprehensive background check. She complained that the HR department was acting like the FBI, digging into her childhood to find out if she shared her toys. She argued that a job at a local bank shouldn't require a deeper security clearance than a secret agent. It is a bizarre trend where companies treat every entry-level employee like a potential international fugitive who needs a full life audit before they can even start. 28. A job seeker recently vented about the "Why are you passionate about this company?" question for a job at a cardboard box factory. He complained that he is passionate about not being homeless and eating dinner, not about corrugated paper products. He argued that forcing people to lie about their dream of working in logistics is a weird form of corporate gaslighting. Why can't we just admit that people work for money? Is it really necessary to pretend you have a lifelong love for insurance or boxes just to get hired? 29. A candidate shared a truly awkward story about an interviewer who spent the entire session complaining about his own personal debt and messy divorce. Instead of asking about the candidate's skills, the manager asked for advice on how to hide assets from an ex-wife. The applicant complained that he went in looking for a paycheck and left feeling like an unpaid therapist for a middle-aged man in a midlife crisis. It is a shocking reminder that sometimes the person on the other side of the desk is way more unstable than you. 30. One designer complained about a test project that was actually just the company's real work for a paying client. They asked her to design 3 social media ads as part of the interview, and then use them on their official page without hiring her or paying a cent. She argued that spec work is a scam used to exploit desperate job seekers for free creative labor. It is a disgusting practice that needs to be called out more often. Have you ever had a company steal your ideas during a so-called interview test? 31. A financial analyst recently vented about an interview where he was asked what kind of pizza topping best described his personality. He argued that he spent years mastering complex data models just to be judged on whether he was spicy pepperoni or boring cheese. The recruiter claimed it was a test of quick thinking, but the candidate complained it was just a lazy way to fill time. It is a perfect example of how corporate America has replaced actual skill assessment with kindergarten-level nonsense that helps absolutely nobody. 32. A 50-year-old developer complained about being told he was a cultural mismatch for a tech startup full of 20-somethings. The recruiter basically admitted they were worried he wouldn't want to play foosball or drink beer on Friday afternoons. He argued that his 20 years of experience should matter more than his willingness to hang out at a frat house office. It is a sad reality where being a seasoned professional is actually treated like a personality defect by young managers. 33. One applicant was furious after finding out he was rejected because he didn't pick up a piece of trash that the manager had purposefully dropped in the hallway. The candidate complained that he saw the trash but assumed the cleaning staff would handle it, or that he might be accused of stealing if he touched something on the floor. He argued that these character tests are just manipulative traps designed to find people who are easy to control. Why do managers think these weird, silent games are a better measure of a person than their actual work history? 34. A manager at a tech firm complained about a candidate who showed up, took one look at the open plan office, and walked out without saying a single word. The applicant later posted online that the collaborative environment looked like a high-stress call center and he didn't want to waste another second of his life. The recruiter was offended by the lack of a formal goodbye, but the candidate argued that his time is valuable and he didn't need a 30-minute meeting to know he hated the vibe. Do you respect the honesty of walking out immediately, or is it just plain rude? 35. An experienced project manager complained about being rejected for a role because he didn't seem vibrant enough for the company's culture. He quickly realized that vibrant was just corporate code for 22 years old and willing to work 80 hours a week for pizza. The recruiter told him they were looking for someone who could keep up with the team's energy, which usually means someone who hasn't learned to set boundaries yet. It is a frustrating form of ageism that hides behind trendy buzzwords to avoid paying for actual expertise and maturity. 36. One hiring manager was baffled when a candidate refused to enter the interview room because the door faced the wrong direction for his energy flow. The applicant complained that the office's bad feng shui would drain his productivity and that the company needed to renovate before he could consider the position. He even suggested moving the CEO's desk to the wealth corner of the building. The manager complained that finding a qualified candidate is hard enough without having to consult an ancient philosophical system just to get them through the door. 37. A candidate recently went viral for calling out an employer who bragged about unlimited vacation time during the interview. When he asked how many days the average employee actually takes, the manager got defensive and admitted that most people take less than 2 weeks because the workload is so intense. The applicant complained that the benefit is a total scam designed to look good in ads while actually discouraging people from ever taking a break. It is a classic corporate bait and switch that treats a basic need for rest like a dirty secret. 38. One hiring manager complained about a candidate who refused to answer any questions unless they were framed as riddles. Every time she was asked about her previous retail experience, she would respond with a cryptic poem about the nature of money and the passage of time. She claimed that standard interviews were a tool of the patriarchy, designed to suppress her intuitive wisdom and creative spirit. It took 40 minutes for the recruiter to realize he wasn't going to get a single straight answer, ending the most confusing and awkward morning of his entire life. 39. One applicant complained about the beer test, where a hiring manager rejects a candidate simply because they don't seem like someone they'd want to grab a drink with. He argued that he was applying to be an accountant, not a best friend, and that his social life shouldn't matter as long as the numbers add up. He complained that this practice just leads to offices full of the same types of people, killing any real diversity or talent. Is the culture fit just a fancy way to hire people who look and act exactly like the boss? 40. A recruiter recently vented about an entry-level candidate who demanded a desk with a professional ring light and a TikTok-ready background as part of her compensation package. She complained that the current office lighting made her look washed out during meetings and that her personal brand was too important to compromise. When the manager explained that they don't provide influencer equipment for junior analysts, she walked out, claiming the company was behind the times. It is a wild look at how social media fame is starting to collide with the boring reality of office work. 41. A candidate complained about a 300-question personality test for a basic stockroom job. It asked bizarre things like, do you prefer a sunset or a spreadsheet? He argued that his taste in scenery has nothing to do with his ability to move heavy boxes. The company claimed they wanted a specific aura, but he complained it was just a way to weed out anyone with a functioning brain. Why do companies use this pseudoscience instead of just looking at a resume? 42. One manager was blasted online for demanding a candidate's previous pay stubs before even making an offer. The applicant complained that his past salary is totally irrelevant to the value he brings to a new role today. The recruiter argued it was for market research, but the candidate knew it was just an excuse to lowball him. He refused and walked out, complaining that the company was acting like a jealous ex-partner. Is your past salary anyone's business but your own? 43. A candidate complained about an interviewer who showed up 15 minutes late and then spent the entire session texting. When he finally looked up, he asked a question that was clearly answered on the first page of the resume. The applicant complained that if a boss can't even pay attention for 20 minutes during a meeting, the entire workplace must be a disorganized disaster. It is the height of corporate arrogance to demand a candidate be perfect while the manager is barely awake. 44. A frustrated applicant went viral for his response to the "Why do you want to work here?" question. He told the recruiter he was passionate about not starving to death and keeping the electricity on in his house. The manager was offended, But the candidate complained that pretending he has a deep emotional connection to a mortgage company is insane. We all know it is about the paycheck, so why are we still playing this weird game of make-believe? It is time to get real. 45. A recruiter recently vented about an entry-level candidate who asked when the current CEO planned to retire because he wanted that job by next Christmas. The kid had zero experience but argued that his natural leadership made him the only logical choice for the top spot. He complained that the company was stifling his growth when they offered him a junior associate role instead. It is a wild world where people want the corner office before they even know where the bathroom is. Do you admire this level of confidence, or is it just pure delusion? 46. One candidate was rejected because her Instagram wasn't curated enough for a corporate PR role. The recruiter complained that her private photos of a hiking trip didn't show enough aesthetic polish or brand alignment. The applicant was furious, arguing that her personal life is not a marketing campaign for her future boss. It is a terrifying trend where your private time is scrutinized by HR departments looking for any reason to say no. Should your social media ever be a factor in getting a job? 47. An applicant complained about a company that sent a generic rejection text at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. No feedback, no explanation, just a cold no while he was literally sleeping. He argued that after 3 rounds of intense interviews, he deserved at least a 5-minute phone call during normal business hours. It is a cowardly move that proves many companies view human beings as nothing more than lines on a spreadsheet. Is a text message rejection a sign of a toxic culture? 48. A manager complained about a candidate who showed up in a full tuxedo for a casual tech interview. He looked like he was headed to the prom, and the team found it so weird they rejected him for being too stiff. The candidate later complained that he was just trying to show respect in a world where everyone wears wrinkled hoodies to work. It is a confusing maze where you are either too formal or too messy, and nobody seems to agree on what the actual rules are anymore. 49. A recruiter was annoyed by a candidate who asked for a detailed list of every paid holiday during the first 5 minutes of the conversation. The manager complained that this showed a lack of dedication to the company's mission. The candidate argued that his mission is to have a life outside of work and that he isn't a martyr for a random software firm. It is a classic clash between employers who want total devotion and workers who just want their weekends and sanity back. 50. One woman complained about an interview where the recruiter refused to turn on her camera during a Zoom call. The applicant felt like she was being interrogated by a ghost in a dark room. When she asked the manager to show her face, the manager complained that the request was aggressive and entitled. It is a bizarre power play that makes the entire hiring process feel more like a police lineup than a two-way professional conversation between 2 actual human beings. 51. A manager complained about a candidate who did a video interview from a busy construction site. The noise was so loud they couldn't hear a word, and when the manager asked him to relocate, the guy got offended. He argued that a dynamic workplace should be able to handle a little background noise and claimed the manager was being elitist. It is a wild level of entitlement to think a boss should yell over a jackhammer just to hear about your Excel skills. Is it ever okay to do an interview from a noisy public place, or is that just lazy? 52. One recruiter was shocked when a teenager asked for a $5,000 sign-on bonus and a company car for a part-time job at a burger joint. The kid argued that his influencer status on TikTok would bring in more customers, so he was worth a high-level investment. When the manager laughed, the candidate complained on social media that the company was suppressing young talent and didn't understand the value of modern marketing. It is a bizarre reality where people think a few thousand followers makes them a high-level executive before they even know how to flip a single burger. 53. A candidate complained about an interviewer who literally fell asleep while he was explaining his background in logistics. The guy started snoring 3 minutes into the presentation, and when the candidate cleared his throat, the manager woke up and asked if he was done yet. The applicant was furious, arguing that if a company can't stay awake for a 10-minute conversation, they clearly don't care about their employees at all. It is the ultimate form of professional disrespect that makes you want to walk out and never look back. How would you react if your future boss started snoring right in your face? 54. One hiring manager complained about a woman who brought her 3-year-old child and a giant bag of noisy toys to a formal law firm interview. The kid spent the entire time trying to climb on the CEO's lap, while the mother insisted that her multitasking skills were top-notch. When she didn't get the job, she complained that the firm wasn't family-friendly enough to accommodate a working parent. While childcare is expensive, there is a limit to how much bringing your whole self to work a professional office can actually handle in a single afternoon. 55. One software developer recently went viral for his furious complaint about a hiring manager who rejected him over a dirty coffee cup. The manager admitted he purposefully leaves candidates with an empty mug to see if they will take it to the kitchen and wash it. The candidate argued that he was a guest in a high-security building and didn't think he was allowed to just wander into the employee break room. He lost a massive job offer because he didn't want to trespass to do a dish that wasn't even his. It is a bizarre mind game where dishes matter more than code. The American job market has officially turned into a circus of bad manners and bizarre expectations. From managers demanding you do their dishes to candidates bringing their moms to talk about their salary, the professional world is in a very strange place. These stories show that the hiring process is more about surviving a weird, psychological game than proving you can actually work. What is the most unhinged thing that has ever happened to you in an interview? Tell us your horror stories in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more.